Sitting in your house in quarantine, getting old fast and you're losing steam. Break out a piece of paper, crayons, and a pencil. Tune in Mr. Allison's YouTube channel. So kill me, but you don't bother me. Gonna be some part for everyone to see.
3, 2, you know what to do. 1, get ready. 0, eyes and smiles and frozen. Nice job, boys and girls. Hi, boys and girls. I'm up here. Hi. So today we're going to be talking about the very, 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 very famous artist, Leonardo da Vinci. Raise your hand if you've ever heard the name Leonardo da Vinci. Quietly, please. Raise your hand. Wow, that's impressive. Okay, so Leonardo da Vinci is very well known, and he was born in 1452 and he died in 1519, which made him 67 years old when he died. And he lived during a very popular period of time, the Renaissance artists, popular among us art teachers because other artists came out of the Renaissance period. We've talked about one of them. What was his name? Anybody remember? Raise your hand. If you're thinking Michelangelo, then you got it. That's right, and Raphael, and so many more. So the Renaissance period was a very interesting time. It's when humans became much more civilized, less barbaric wars and brutality among people, but they also became much more interested in the arts and in sculptures and in paintings and in very elaborate buildings. So this was a real turning point in human history, the Renaissance period. And of course, Leonardo da Vinci lived during the Renaissance period. If I can get my PowerPoint to work. Here we go. All right, so our objective today is we're going to learn about the life and the artwork and the techniques of this master artist. And our activity today is we're going to create a Leonardo da Vinci inspired piece of artwork. You're going to create it. That's right. Can't wait for that. So our standard that we're going to hit on today is we're going to incorporate ideas from this art exemplar. And the big question we're going to answer that you're going to know by the end of this presentation is what makes Leonardo da Vinci such a great artist? What makes him so great? So we're going to take a very up close and personal look at Leonardo da Vinci and find out what makes him so great. Let's find out who he was before his two most famous paintings, and I'm sure you've probably at least heard of them. The Mona Lisa, raise your hand if you've heard of the Mona Lisa, quietly. And The Last Supper, raise your hand. Wow, you guys have heard of these. That's fantastic. So we're going to talk about Leonardo before these two paintings. So Leonardo da Vinci was born in 1452 in Vinci, Italy, near Florence. And what did I say? Leonardo da Vinci was born in Vinci, Italy? Did they name this town after Leonardo da Vinci? No, Leonardo was named after the town. So let me explain. Da Vinci in Italian means from Vinci. Leonardo from Vinci. And so, okay, you probably are starting to understand. So back then, when a mom and a dad weren't married, when they had the child, Leonardo, then the son didn't take the name of the father or the mother. In fact, he took the name of the town he was born in, Vinci, Italy. So Leonardo from Vinci. Interesting, but you didn't know that. Okay, so he was a true genius in many, many ways. And he learned so much just by being curious, paying close attention to the world around him, and always wanting to learn more. Are you like that too? Well, as a young child, he studied animals and nature and human anatomy very, very closely. And even more, he studied them even more than doctors and scientists at the time. Look at those drawings to the left. You can see how detailed his drawings were of that horse and the unborn child and the crab. And you know, his drawings were so detailed because he studied these animals and nature and humans so closely. Leonardo lived with his mom until he was 8 years old, but she was very poor and couldn't care for him. So he moved in with his father. he had to move to Florence, Italy, which is pretty close, 26 miles away, like maybe from here to Titusville, to live with his father because he had much more money and could care for him. Now his father gets Dad of the Year award because he noticed he was instrumental in his Leonardo's career and him becoming a famous artist, because he noticed the artistic talent that Leonardo had and got him, when he was 14 years old, got him an apprenticeship with a very famous sculptor and painter at the time, Verrocchio, super famous at the time. Okay, so what does that mean to get him an apprenticeship? All right, so an apprenticeship is sort of a relationship where there's a very famous person, Verrocchio, and then there's someone who wants to learn from that famous person. And so what happens is that person, the person that wants to learn, becomes a helper and helps. He was helping Verrocchio, helping him get his paint, helping him choose the rocks for the sculpting, just helping him gather supplies. And in turn, Verrocchio was teaching Leonardo da Vinci everything he knew about sculpting and painting. And that made Leonardo that was the first step forward in becoming as great as he is today, or was. So when he was 20 years old, when Leonardo was 20 years old, he helped his teacher, right, Verrocchio, he helped him finish a painting. It was this painting off to the right. And you see how I've outlined it in red, circled it in red? That's the angel that Leonardo painted in Verrocchio's painting. And guess what? Leonardo's angel was thought to be the best part and the most realistic part of this painting. So after this painting, Leonardo was seen by everybody as a highly gifted and talented artist. So now Leonardo is well on his way to becoming famous. Here we go. Here's an up-close look. See how it's circled his angel? And there's an up-close look at Leonardo's angel. Very good. All right, so we're almost there. How did he become so great? All right, look at those beautiful drawings over there and the details on those drawings. His interest in learning about animals and studying them helped him to become better than most artists. Just his interest in learning about them and studying them. But it was his fascination with the human body that is said to have made him perhaps the greatest figure artist of all time. So look at the detail. Let's look at the cats first. See how the cats are in different positions, and the detail, the hair, the direction of the hair, it just looks so realistic looking for just a sketch. Now let's look at the human body. So there, I know you're thinking it's probably a little gross, but you can see that he spent so much time learning about the human body and how every muscle and tendon connected to the bone, and how the body is shaped and inside the skin, actually, so that he learned how to paint and draw the human body with skin on, of course. And so this really helped him a lot. No other artists were doing this at the time. So Leonardo studied the inner structures of man by attending lots. So this is how he learned about those muscles and tendons. He studied by attending lots of autopsies and performing human and animal dissections himself. I know you're thinking, ooh, that's gross, Mr. Allison. No, that's science. That's what doctors have to do and veterinarians have to do so that they can learn about the animal and human bodies. So his drawings and notes were so accurate that they are actually still used today to illustrate to students anatomy. That's right. That's the makeup of the human body. So that's how detailed and precise and perfect they were at the time. Pretty amazing. All right, so here we go. And this is how he became so great. He used what he learned about the human body to paint his masterpieces, like, of course, the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper. There are lots of bodies in there, lots of human figures in there. But let's first talk about the very, very, very famous Mona Lisa and the mystery behind her. Leonardo painted this painting, the Mona Lisa, on a piece of wood, not on a canvas, on a piece of poplar wood in the year 1507, when he was 55 years old. And that was just 12 years before he died, actually. It was later in his life. Never in history has one painting been so admired. And this, they say, is due largely to her smile. Did you know that this painting is small? It's small enough to carry under your arm. And he carried it with him wherever he went for 10 years till he finally sold it in 1517, just 2 years before his death. And you know what? He didn't sell it to the person that paid him to paint it either. I'm not sure what happened there. It was Leonardo's favorite painting, finally selling it to the King of France. And I'm not exactly sure how much money this translates to American dollars, but he sold it for 4,000 gold crowns. So that's a lot of gold, a lot of money. I'm sure those crowns were worth. Her smile and identity are a part of this mystery. Most believe that she is Lisa Gerardini Giocondo, the wife of a very wealthy Italian man at the time who asked Da Vinci to paint her portrait. Obviously, he never got it because he held on to it for 10 years and finally sold it to the King of France. So something happened there. Either he didn't get paid for it, or I don't know, or maybe he didn't want to sell it by the time he was done with it. So you can't tell because I put the googly eyes on her, but wherever you stand, her eyes will always appear to be looking at you. The background, check out the background, looks like a science fiction or fairy tale world. Oh, this adds to the mystery. Mona Lisa is said to be the most valuable painting in the world, right? Valued at $700 million. And in 1911, this painting, the Mona Lisa, was actually stolen from its home. It was missing for 2 years. And it was stolen from the Louvre in Paris, France, which is a very popular, huge gallery for world's most famous art, the Louvre in Paris, France. And you know who stole it? It was an employee, someone who worked there. He stuffed it under his shirt because remember, it was not very big, it's small. He stuffed it under his shirt and just walked right out. And before he was caught, the police interviewed lots of people, and they actually interviewed Pablo Picasso, very famous artist Picasso, because they thought maybe he stole the painting. Did he? No. It was stolen by an Italian man, and this thief kept the Mona Lisa for 2 years before finally getting caught. So let's talk about the most, the equally famous Last Supper and its interesting history. The Last Supper, it took him 4 years to paint this. He started in 1494 and finished in 1498. And the Last Supper is considered to be Da Vinci's greatest painting because there's so many people in this painting and lots of detail. This is a painting of the Christian Bible story about Jesus in the center and his 12 disciples or apostles and their last meal together. So look at the expression of Jesus in the center and the apostles as Jesus announces that one of them will betray him, Judas, right? Here's an up-close look. This was not painted on a canvas, not painted on wood. It was actually painted what? It was painted on a wall. That's right, a wall of a dining room in a church used by monks. And the church's name is the Church of Santa Maria delle Grazie in Milan, Italy. So it was painted on a wall, really big wall, in a dining room used by monks at the church in Milan, Italy. And in 1815, during the Napoleonic War, they were very worried about this painting getting destroyed, right, during the war. Well, soldiers actually moved into this church and used it as a military base, and they fired shots at the 12 apostles and Jesus on the wall as target practice. We're lucky it wasn't totally destroyed. Here's a picture of it right after the Napoleonic War, black and white picture because it was a long time ago. And look at that, still surviving. But then in 1943, during the World War II, with Hitler, a bomb hit right next to that church, right next to that church's dining room where the Last Supper was. And it completely destroyed the ceiling and almost 3 of the 4 walls. But guess what? Guess which wall was left standing? That's right, somehow leaving the one wall with Da Vinci's Last Supper standing completely and miraculously intact. Woo! Survived 2 wars. Here's a picture. So you can see before the bomb hit, they were very worried about it. So they used wood and scaffolding to kind of protect that wall where Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper was. You can see that in the picture off to the right where the arrow is pointing. The one wall to the left is almost standing nicely, but you can tell it's been damaged. But look, no ceiling. Here's another shot. Look at that. No wall to the right, no ceiling, no wall in the front. The wall to the left isn't looking so good, but the wall with Leonardo's Last Supper is standing perfectly. Whew, what a miracle to be still standing. So there's so much more about Leonardo da Vinci that I want to teach you about, but we're going to have to say that for another time. In fact, we're going to continue this next week. But here are some quick highlights. This is the Vitruvian Man, and Leonardo da Vinci, so smart, he came up with some laws for human proportion. We'll talk about that later. He was also an inventor and an engineer, and he designed on paper the water lift, the catapult, the thread cutter, the machine gun, the landing gear. He was interested in flight, so he studied birds, and he invented the first helicopter on paper. And look at this. He came up with the first practical design for a parachute and drew a sketch of it in 1485. And that, boys and girls, is going to be our next project. We are going to make a small version, a paper version of a parachute, the one that he created, just like he created or designed on paper. So that incorporates, when we incorporate science, technology, engineering, arts, and math all in one, we call that STEAM. We'll talk more about that next week. And this is the Da Vinci Code. Have you heard of that? He wrote in cryptic writing, and we'll learn more about that later, and so that other people couldn't steal his ideas and inventions and just read what he was talking about. Here's a statue of Leonardo da Vinci in Florence, Italy. But now it's time to create some of Leonardo da Vinci's inspired artwork. We are gonna create, that's right, we are gonna make Mona Lisa. That's right. You're going to start with what's off to the left. You see that paper with a lot of white on it, and I'm giving you this paper with the face and the hands on it. So all you have to do is the rest. So that's going to be fun. Here's my example off to the right. So how might Leonardo have painted the Mona Lisa today? And if Leonardo was a kid today, how might he paint the Mona Lisa? You're going to answer that question with your painting. You're going to paint the Mona Lisa however you think the Mona Lisa might be painted today, or however you want to paint the Mona Lisa. And you can have fun with it. You can change the hairstyle, the background, the clothing, and you can make it look just like you, or just like you want to look, or just like you want Mona Lisa to look. So here are some examples. These look great and very relevant to today. And there's my example. All right, but before we get started, boys and girls, before I let you get started on your Mona Lisa, we are gonna first see what you learned today. You're gonna take a slip of paper that looks a lot like this one, and you're gonna answer all the questions. You're gonna put your name on the back, and when you're done, you're gonna raise your hand. So usually I would have you turn to a shoulder partner, or you would be working as a table. But today, because of COVID, we're just going to each work on our own. So you're going to answer all the questions, you're going to put your name on the back, and you're going to raise your hand when you're done, and then I'm going to give you your paper so you can get started on your Mona Lisa. So I took off the last question because it's so much like the second question. So you're just going to have 3 questions today. You're going to explain how Leonardo da Vinci got the name Da Vinci as number 1. Question number 2, you're going to explain what events or practices in his life made him so great. This is the question that I wanted you to learn today. What makes Leonardo so great? So that's number 2. Number 3, what do you know about the Mona Lisa painting? And I've taken off number 4. All right, when you're finished, raise your hand and you can get started on making Mona. That's it, boys and girls. I can't wait to see your art. I hope you enjoy learning about Leonardo da Vinci and the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper. And don't forget, this is just our first lesson. Next week, we're going to take we're going to look more into Leonardo da Vinci and his inventions, and of course, the parachute. Bye, boys and girls. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Good luck with your artwork.
Sitting in your house in quarantine, getting old fast and you're losing steam. Break out a piece of paper, crayons, and a pencil. Tune in Mr. Allison's YouTube channel. So Kobe, but you don't bother me. Gonna make some art for everyone to see.